All right, so you just got a pair of these, the 2025 edition of the Nike Air Foamposite 1 Galaxy, a retro that is one of the top 5 sneaker releases in this millennium. You got it from either your favorite sneaker shop or you scored it on Sneakers app, good for you. But then you get a notification on your phone. It's from your buddy saying that he saw a post on Blue Sky, a skeet if you will, that someone was willing to trade their 2009 Toyota Corolla for the Galaxy Foams. And then you see on TikTok that people are actually storming a mall hours before the local Foot Locker opens because they heard from somebody who told somebody that said that somebody knew somebody that worked at said Foot Locker and that they would have the foams. You'd be shocked, right? It's the year 2025. Sneakers ain't that serious anymore. Or should I say, foams aren't that serious anymore. Wait, maybe I do mean sneakers aren't that serious anymore. Nobody is trading their 16-year-old car, and grown-ass men and women are not taking days off work to line up in the freezing cold February weather for Galaxy Foams. It's not 2012. And you'd be right, none of that happened in 2025. Well, some people in the Bay Area lined up for a whole bunch of sneakers, including the Galaxy Foams, but the point still stands. We are in a different time now, and this retro is a reminder of where sneaker culture used to be and kind of where it stands today. For those that aren't familiar, the Foams actually have a literal galaxy print all over the shoe. They have a really cool glow-in-the-dark outsole. They have a tag that you remove before flight. Most people don't walk around with this on their shoes. You have the 1 cent logo on the back, which is honestly, I feel like it's criminally underrated. More people should be talking about the logo. But overall, it is a basic Nike Air Foamposite sneaker. You have some carbon fiber there, which was a thing at the time when the shoe was made. You have some nubuck along the liner. Then you have the mesh on the tongue and on the heel by your Achilles. It's a very nice and cool looking shoe. So let's start with the past. What exactly would cause someone in Queens to trade in a perfectly functioning car for a pair of foams in a size 10.5? If you weren't outside during that time, or even funnier, you were still in the toddler size J's your mom and dad gave you, here's some much needed context. In 2012, sneakers were on their way to becoming mainstream. The blogs were starting to expand their audience beyond the diehards who frequented the Nike Talk forums. Social media platforms like pre-hellhole Twitter and non-problematic, non-video Instagram exposed kids to sneakers beyond dirty Chucks and Vans. eBay was making it easier than ever to buy and flip sneakers for profit, and nightly news outlets, they struck gold whenever a big release was going down because of the glorious footage they would get of people being too excited just to buy sneakers. Nike was seeing plenty of growth potential in the sneakerhead market, catering to their inexplicable desire to buy the same shoes over and over again in different colors and themes. It used to be that Nike's big picture retro strategy was just to drop the Air Jordan 11 during the holiday, make special colorways for Christmas, All-Star, Black History Month, and call it a day. By 2012, though, we had sneakers for Easter, NBA playoffs, NBA finals, NBA draft, 4th of July, Election Day, Halloween, and everything in between. 2012 was a big bang year for sneakers, sneakerheads, sneaker culture, and really the sneaker community as a whole. And the sneaker that encapsulated all of that, the Galaxy Foams. And here's the thing. No one foresaw this. Why? Because foams were not cool and popular. They were niche and had a devoted following, but cool and popular? Nah, not yet. So much like the banned Air Jordan 1, the history of the Nike Air Foamposite 1 can be just as fraught and hazy to go through. It was ahead of its time and expensive to make. It was meant for Scottie Pippen, but then Penny Hardaway swooped in and declared it was his. It was first worn by Mike Bibby and Arizona Wildcats a month before Penny could debut them. It was cool to look at, but was out of the price range of most kids. It was a cult hit. It was a flop. It was everything. It was nothing. However, despite not becoming an immediate hit out of the box, Nike believed in the future of Foamposite. I mean, why else would you see spinoffs like the Foamposite Pro, the Flightposite, and others in their preceding years? We even got Clogposites out of the deal. William Dafoe's Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man wore Flightposites. Foams were on some level connecting with the audience, but in a hey, look at that, those Nikes are funky kind of way. Not in a, yes, I will spend $200 to own and wear those funky Nikes kind of way. So when was the turn? Well, there had to be a turn, right? Because why else would we be talking about the Galaxy foams? Well, that began in 2007 when new colorways of the Foamposite 1 started to drop in limited parts of the country. East Coast sneakerheads began to adopt foams into their repertoire, and depending on who you talk to, it was either New York or the DMV who put on for the foams first. Then you started to see artists like Wale rock foams like they were Jordans or SB Dunks, becoming a protro sneaker influencer. As foams started to take off like they never had before, they started to appear in more shops and in more colorways. Between the original Foamposite 1 and the Foamposite Pro, you were now seeing not only people post their on-foot pictures of the foams, but their entire outfits that matched. The way colors just pop on a pair of foams made it easy for burgeoning sneaker fashionistas to build entire fits off. Eggplant foams with jeans, a flannel shirt, and a fitted cap? Man, you couldn't tell anybody that wasn't a fire look in 2010. Combine that with the nostalgic way we look back at Penny Hardaway and his signature shoe line, we probably shouldn't have been surprised that February 2012 went the way that it did. So why do I say that? Well, because while the foams were growing in stature, it wasn't Nike basketball of the early 2010s. I mean, you want to talk about how the shoe game is different between then and now? Look no further than the dominance of Nike basketball's division. From the launch of the Nike LeBron 8 South Beach in 2010 to, let's say, the day the late Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles in a pair of Nike Kobe 8 Elites, they could do no wrong. In between those 2 points was All-Star Weekend 2012. Speaking of things that used to mean something, NBA All-Star Weekend, am I right? Anyways, with the 2012 festivities taking place in Orlando, Nike decided to go with the space theme, and all of their signature shoes would reflect that. You got the Nike LeBron 9 Big Bang with its bright orange look, bursting with energy, the Nike KD 4 Galaxy that would serve as Kevin Durant's arrival on the biggest sneaker stage, and the Nike Kobe 7 Supreme Galaxy that was, well, there's a reason you don't hear many clamoring for a Kobe 7 Protro, and I'll just leave that at that. Anyway, meanwhile, Nike Sportswear's biggest contribution would be the Galaxy foams. For the first time, the foams were getting away from the monochromatic, almost Skittles-like approach and trying on some graphics for a change. It was every bit as shocking as seeing those neon royal foams that were on Mike Bibby's feet all those years ago. And when you mix that with sneaker culture expanding beyond its hardcore audience, it was really something that we all should have anticipated. From Nike's 21 Mercer in New York launch that seemed to go off without a hitch, to the malls in Florida that had to deal with overly anxious crowds looking for their next sneaker to rock or flip, it was chaos. And the world was watching from not only their TV screens, but their phones as well. It was a moment made for social media, complete with blurry pictures and video clips of people rushing to get into the mall hours before its midnight launch. Funny enough, how memory works, I forgot that it was a midnight launch. When I first started looking up that day, I assumed it was for an early morning drop and everything that went down was during the middle of the night. That scene affected everything that happened afterwards because by the time Nike LA had its launch for the entire Galaxy packs at the Montalban Theater, they actually had security escort the winners to their cars. Now, whether that was an overreaction or not, I mean, when I remember people that were in attendance that night, that was not the crew to rush anything to get sneakers. It's something we'll litigate until the end of time, but it had people shook. But also weirdly hyped because, man, sneakers had arrived. Everybody was paying attention and everybody was jumping on board the hype train. You had kids buying foams and Jordans and Roshis. Remember Roshis? And they were slapping together whatever outfit they could pull off for the gram. If you were a serviceable NBA player who had a little bit of swag, you could make headlines on the biggest blogs just by wearing foams. Nike Basketball's Galaxy Pack, most people forgot what LeBron, KD, and Kobe wore and focused on Rajon Rondo and his Galaxy foams. It's totally possible you were one of those kids back then who were kinda sorta interested in sneakers and saw that whole thing go down and were like, I need to be a part of that. And since you couldn't get Galaxy foams, could Nike interest you in other colorways? Maybe solid colors don't work for you. How about they slap some camo on it? Or weather patterns? What if they teamed up with Supreme and added some faux Versace print on them? Is that something you might be interested in? If there was a championship belt that was held by who had the top spot at Nike, LeBron, Kobe, and KD were the three-headed monster that held the strap for a couple of years before handing it off to the foams. Yeah. Foams were a big deal for a minute, man, and you kinda had to be there. But we all know what happened next. After a few years of dominance, foams crashed out. Too many releases, too many gimmicks, too much of a price tag. But they never completely disappeared from consciousness. There were a few breaks in the preceding years, but just when you were about to forget about the foams, here they come with a retro of the OG Neon Royal or the Eggplant or a new colorway like the DMV that settles the debate. Turns out all of those smaller regional and targeted drops were all in preparation for this return. Will the tides turn and the foams once again start a new era thanks to Galaxies? Nah. And honestly, that's okay. This retro will not serve as the launching off point for a new era of foams. There won't be a foam renaissance, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, people will try to make foams happen again, but we're too far into our chill era of Vomeros and 990s and Sambas to mess with foams in that way. In a way, it's kind of like the NBA All-Star Game. There was a time when it was the event on the calendar, and while it might have its occasional bright spots here and there, we have all moved on. We talk about it and complain about it like we care so much about the sanctity of the All-Star Game and the foams, but really we're just saying stuff for the sake of saying it. It doesn't mean that it won't pop off once again in the future, but it's not gonna be today. The best thing we can do to honor the time that we had with the foams is pick up a pair, rock them with some camo pants, a crispy button-up shirt, and a fitted Dodger hat. You know, for the memories. Anyway, I'm Jacques Slade. As always, I appreciate you guys. Let me know, what do you think of the Galaxy foams, the foam renaissance, if there's going to be one, and should these come back in big numbers? Anyway, as always, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe, and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you soon. Peace.